TruArtSpeaks. So honored to be not only in the anthology with you all, but to be here with y'all today. I'm very pleased to be here. I'm gonna get right into it. Dear editor, scant days after Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd, I received an email from an editor of an online magazine. The email was a request to respond to the murder, calling on, roughly, my experience and expertise in anti-Blackness, my stature, and my proximity on the ground, which was an unfortunate choice of words, in the Twin Cities. Instead of producing an exclusive comment, I posted a version of this statement on my Facebook account on June 5th, 2020. It was late in the morning, almost noon. I've made very few revisions. Dear editor, I thank you for this invitation. Funny, I composed a poem about the historic Watts uprisings on Sunday, May 24th, before the MPD murdered George Floyd. There's a part of me that wants to simply send you all of what I've already written, not as some authority, but to point out simply that this is a changing same, that I and many others are always thinking about the conditions under which George Floyd and so many others are subject. The combination of these as features, not bugs and systemic modes of violence that are a part of the purview of policing. As my wife and I explained to our 10-year-olds, who learned explicitly about a then contemporaneous application of this constant historical killing when St. Anthony police officer Geronimo Yanez murdered Philando Castile. It isn't that law enforcement is simply disinterested in protecting Black people, but that US culture/law dictate that our very presence is the thing they are meant to protect against. That white comfort has come to define itself as dependent on methodical control of everyone they deem other is true. Settler colonialism, slavery, racism, forced displacement within the country, deportation, xenophobia, lynching, segregation, official exclusionary acts, internment, redlining, underemployment, food deserts, compromised healthcare access, the prison industry, genocidal wet works, and on and on and on and on. In this, Black people have the horrifying underprivilege of being mass mediatization's most consistent public face of a comfort control equation involving law enforcement and murder. And though we, and as such, we, along with everyone else, see Black people murdered and assaulted by police and parapolice vigilantes again and again and again and again and again across the country's news cycle with a sure shot frequency. That white supremacy put me in a position to make this a reasonable conversation to have with my then 6-year-olds is a violence I will never forgive. I will go to work carrying it. I will share social space carrying it. I will form friendships carrying it, yet I will not forgive it. Back to the invitation. I've grappled with your request because you see, I wonder, at what point does another piece triggered in response to the changing same become a part of the control comfort ecosystem? This is complex in that writing such things is not cathartic for me. And I'd imagine many others, many different kinds of people could read what I've written, including people who are on the short end of the comfort and control stick. I wonder, and I wonder this honestly. When is writing about violence against Black people not a prediction? By which I mean, this violence is always happening. So when I wrote the poem I mentioned above, was I reacting to Watts, refracted through the historical pattern of the changing same? Was I acting in anticipation or response to the same thing happening again? Or was I, like the pastoral poet, not set on waiting for the event of fall in order to write about the redness in the arbor, but simply looking out my window in some October and watching a cycle continue? Understand, I am angry, editor, not with the invitation. Precisely, I am angry that a policeman murdered George Floyd. I am angry that members of my community must risk their safety from more violence and a pandemic to demonstrate against this changing same. But for this letter, dear editor, I am angry that despite all I've written, alongside contemporaries who've written even better, adding to a tradition we carry on because it is the cycle which our ancestors fell, suddenly read to the ground, and those who could wrote about it also better than I, that what seems to be the case is that maybe if we try again, maybe if we write it more clearly and passionately, but not too passionately, or perhaps more passionately, or with more nuance, or perhaps with unequivocal statements, or more musically, maybe with greater eloquence. No, 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 no. Plain speech. That maybe if we do that just right and do it new and do it now with speed and urgency for those moments they are paying attention, white people will finally realize that they are responsible for changing themselves. And via their massive, more sacrosanct voting power, disproportionately large economic resources, gross overrepresentation in positions of power, and most importantly, prime access to their own psyches for speedily and urgently dismantling the systems that exist for them and their privilege. And yes, class is critical to this, but more fluid than perceived race. Police don't check your credit rating before they shoot, club, rough ride, or strangle your life away, because you see, they already know what they think you're worth. I'll stop there. Thank you.